You made me laugh.
I love you, Dad.
Biffy soap, wish on a star. To heaven you'll fly on a bubbly bar. Boo, 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 boo. Boo, 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 boo. Boo, 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 boo. Boo, boo.
My Mom, you're just cleaning the floor. Be careful.
You're just...
Now you know where she got the hammy from.
Right?
That's good, right? That's a good
Hey, you
fake
put
out.
in a break.
A Bob and Alice production.
Worldwide Pants.
מיד נשדר פרק בסדרת התעודה אוכל אמיתי בסין.
אני שיננית.
אני רופא.
אני רוצה שתרשום טייסת.
אני לא יודע מה להגיד. אני חושב.
מה אני, כלב?
אני?
אני התחלתי לנופף בידיים ככה ולצעוק.
אני...
משורר אני!
שר החקלאות. אני דווקא מאוד אוהב מגע עם קהל.
אני יודעת טוב מאוד מאיפה הדג משתין.
אני? אני אוהב את כולם.
רוק בית הסוהר זה הרוק שלי. כל הכוכבים, כל ההתרגשות, כל ההכנות. כל הגריז הזה, מאחורי הקלעים ועל הבמה של המחזמר גריז. כל גריז הזה.
יום שני, 9:20, מיד אחרי החמישייה הקאמרית, ערוץ 2, תלעד.
שנים היא הייתה הצעצוע יקר של איש עסקים קשוח.
Do what I'm telling you!
אבל אהבה חדשה הופכת את חייה. מלאני גריפית ודון ג'ונסון בסרט רק אתמול נולדה. חמישי הבא, 9:20, סינימה 2, תלעד.
Every mealtime in China, 1 billion sit down to eat. What they eat is determined by their ethnic background, the food available in their province, and by a tradition of cuisine that stretches back further than any other on this planet. Please join us for the real food of China. A good escape from a hot, sticky Beijing summer is to travel a few miles out of the city to a park where one can stroll along the lake edge or float across the lake on a barge or admire the fantastic architecture. It is a park open for all to enjoy. However, not that long ago, it was one woman's private summer palace. In the 19th century, the Empress Dowager spent summers here in complete luxury. On a marble barge, she was entertained with Peking opera. She employed the finest chefs, the best artists, the most meticulous gardeners. When money ran short, she diverted state funds to the upkeep and improvement of her palace. In this fantastic setting, she was able to ignore the fact that outside the palace, her empire was disintegrating. What was the Dowager's dining room and kitchens is now the most expensive, prestigious restaurant in China. Even in modern China, privilege has to be paid for. The chefs are trained in the imperial court style. The Empress insisted on 100 dishes for every meal. Of course, she could only find time to glance at most of them, so the appearance of the food became even more important than the taste. This chef is a master of the cold dishes kitchen. He and his staff apply their skills to a dish called 2 dragons and a pearl. The dragon heads and pearl are sculptured from colored dough. The spines of the bodies are formed with shredded chicken and shredded cucumber. The flesh for the body is formed from egg rolls. A fish paste is made from scrapings of white fish flesh. Concurrently, eggs are prepared to make skins. "200 grams or 7 ounces of fish mash is used. 4 small eggs are whisked together with a teaspoon of a paste made from equal amounts of corn flour and cold water. The fish is pounded to a mash. A little water is added to obtain a smooth texture. Egg skin mix is quickly swirled into a hot, well-seasoned wok. The fish mash is mixed with 2 egg whites. Two tablespoons of water, flavored with ginger and spring onion. A 1/4 teaspoon of salt sprinkle of MSG, a teaspoon of corn flour. The surface of the egg skin is smeared with fish paste. Then a layer of blanched cabbage is laid on, followed by another layer of fish paste. The rolls are gently steamed 7 to 10 minutes until firm. Alternative color roll center is also made by placing strips of carrot on top of the mash. Cucumber is peeled to obtain a skin for the dragon's frills. Egg skins are shredded and cherries are sliced to provide the final trimmings to the assemblage. dragons and a pearl, is a favorite traditional image and signifies good fortune. Emperor Kangxi of the Qing dynasty traveled the land collecting recipes. His most favorite was discovered by chance. He was at a boat festival in the south and decided he would rather join in the fun than be the center of attention. He dressed in civilian clothes and had his eunuchs hire him a boat. He drifted through the other festival boats unnoticed. Come lunchtime, the old woman who owned the boat cooked him a dish he immediately declared a work of art. He brought back the recipe to Peking, and it has been handed down generation to generation by the imperial chefs and is now served at the Summer Palace. Dragon boatfish. A 1 kilogram or 2 pound 3 ounce mandarin fish is gutted, scaled, definned and degilled. The perch could be used instead of mandarin fish. The fish is slit its full length. The bones are released and the spine snapped behind the head so it will splay flat. It is blanched in simmering water until the shape of the fish sets. The skin is cleared of any scales that remain and smoothed down with a round blade knife. A 175 gram or 6 ounce chicken breast is pounded to a smooth puree. It is a long process. Many years' training is required to achieve the rhythm this chef displays. 2 tablespoons of water, flavored with ginger and spring onion, are added to the mash. This may sound heresy, but the job can be done in a food processor. Flaps are cut either side of the backbone. A very sharp cleaver is needed. It's worked carefully along the bones, releasing the flesh cleanly. The chicken puree is seasoned with 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of Chinese rice wine, and 1/2 teaspoon of Chinese sesame oil. The fish flaps are wedged open with slices of bamboo shoot and held in place with skewers. The cavity is loaded with the chicken puree and topped with fine slices of red preserved cherries. The fish sprinkled with cuttings of a large spring onion and a finely sliced knob of ginger, then drizzled with Chinese sesame oil. A sprinkling of MSG and a sprinkling of salt, and it is ready for the steamer. But first, there are egg whites to be whisked. 600 mils or 20 ounces of egg whites. That's a lot of whisking. It's a task two chefs share. The egg whites are whisked until firm and dry. Then are formed on a wet platter. The mound is dressed with shreds of cabbage. Timing is very important. Two chefs work together so that nothing is held too long and spoils. One chef pours 100 mils or 3½ ounces of clear chicken stock over the fish. The other floats the egg white mound on water, heated just until small bubbles cling to the surface of the wok. The fish is placed in a steamer. After 20 minutes, it is cooked, and the spring onion, ginger, bamboo shoots, and skewers are removed. The liquid from the fish is added to 1.5 litres or 2½ imperial or 3½ US pints of clear chicken stock and heated until boiling. It is seasoned with a little salt and MSG. The soup is poured onto a platter to be a pond. The egg white and fish are floated to be the dragon boat. In the bun kitchen of the restaurant, longevity peaches are being prepared. Fermented dough is sprinkled with a teaspoon of baking powder and kneaded until silky. The dough is formed into a roll. A piece is broken off and pressed into a circle. Jujubes are used as sweet fillings. They are purchased dried and are placed under running water to clean, then steamed 10 minutes until soft and plumped, cooled, then coarsely chopped. A little lard and sugar binds and sweetens the filling. The dough is shaped into a stylized peach, which is steamed 15 minutes. Small dough faces are molded, which give the bun its name. The faces are a symbol of longevity to the Chinese. A little water is used to glue the faces to the peach. bun is steamed a further 5 minutes, then cooled and colored with a slice of preserved cherry. 10 smaller peaches are made from the remaining ingredients to accompany the large longevity peach. The smaller ones steam 12 minutes. The pavilion of listening to the Orioles, which was once one of the Empress Dowager's dining rooms, now is a public restaurant. The tradition of the cuisine of the Empress and the Emperors before her, however, still survive in the kitchens of the Summer Palace. Fish simply cannot breed fast enough in the wild to satisfy the Chinese appetite for them. So for centuries, carp have been cultivated on aquatic farms. There are 19 varieties raised. They grow very fast, which makes them extremely valuable protein when there is 1 billion mouths to feed. They are also valued for beneficial effects on the liver, gallbladder, spleen, and for encouraging healthy growth in pregnant women and the fetus. A famous Chinese poem goes, "Out in the garden in the moonlight, our servant is scraping a carp with so much vigor that the scales fly in every direction. Perhaps they go as high as heaven. Those beautiful stars up there might be the scales of our fish." It is a little unfortunate, for the carp in particular, that the Chinese insist on fish being as fresh as possible to the table and scale their carp live. At the Jinan Hotel, the restaurant's speciality is yellow river carp with brown sauce. The yellow river carp is considered one of the most delicious and is extensively farm bred. The carp is scored on both sides down to the bone. A light crisscross is scored just above the tail. 2 spring onions are finely chopped. Four large garlic cloves are peeled, smashed, and chopped. A 4-centimeter or 1.5-inch knob of ginger is also finely chopped. A coating batter is made from corn flour and water. Vegetable oil is heated till smoking for deep frying. The tail is held towards the head, forcing the fish to cook in a curve. Once the fish has set rigid in shape, it is left to cook, while a sauce is constructed. Three tablespoons of oil quickly reaches temperature and shimmers. The garlic, ginger, and spring onion go in. A little more oil is added to stop the seasonings scorching. Plus 100 mils or 3½ ounces of brown vinegar, 200 mils or 7 ounces of clear stock, 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, 150 grams or 5 ounces of sugar. One and a half tablespoons of corn flour, dissolved in 3 tablespoons of water, is used as a thickening agent. A little oil makes the sauce shine. The carp should be served the moment it is ready, piping hot and shiny with the piquant sauce. Next, a dish that has been described as seeds with the golden threads of heaven. The name given the recipe by the Jinan Hotel chefs is more down to earth. Toffee lotus seeds. 200 grams or 7 ounces of dried lotus seeds are placed in cooker, which is brought to the boil and kept boiling 15 to 20 minutes until the seeds are softened. A batter of 150 grams or 5 ounces of potato flour and 120 mils or 4 ounces of cold water is mixed. Lotus seeds are delicately flavored water lily seeds. They can be eaten fresh when young and juicy, but are most commonly used dried. Your Asian food store will be able to supply them. The batter-coated seeds are tossed in potato flour until evenly coated. Cherries are sliced to garnish the dish. The lotus seeds are shaken in a sieve to remove the excess flour, then cooked in a very hot oil until the coating forms a crisp crust. Careful stirring keeps the seeds separate. .250 grams, or 9 ounces of sugar, is mixed with 120 mils, or 4 ounces of water, over a high heat to make the toffee. It is constantly, vigorously stirred. The toffee is cooked until a light golden caramel. The lotus seeds and cherries go in, and immediately the wok is removed from the heat. For safety's sake, you may prefer to use a saucepan and toss the ingredients with the lid on. The dish is allowed to stand for several minutes for the toffee to slightly solidify before serving. When the lotus seeds are lifted, the toffee will come away in golden threads. The noodle maker is applying a skill that has been practiced over 1,500 years. The dough is worked to make it extremely elastic, then repeatedly stretched, divided, and pulled until the noodles are the desired thickness. It is a technique that takes 3 years to master. Noodles come in various shapes and sizes, textures and colors. This man is making round noodles. The same dough is used for flat noodles. It is the technique of stretching that is different. We will pause for a moment to have a look at the dough making. 750 grams, or 1 pound 10 ounces of plain white flour, a teaspoon of salt, a pinch of soda, and 390 mils, or 13 ounces of cold water, make about 1 kilogram, or 2 pound 3 ounces of noodles. He draws the flour and water together with his hand, adding water to dry parts until achieving a firm, coarse dough. He dips his hand in water and punches the dough repeatedly until a smooth dough forms. The dough is left half an hour in a crock under a damp cloth, then rolled out onto a floured surface and worked into noodles, in this case, flat noodles. If 3 years of training put you off making your own, use the same dough in a mechanical pasta maker. It can never be quite the same, but it will be fresh, and fresh noodles are a different texture and taste to dried. The chefs are making a simple chicken noodle soup. The noodles are plunged into boiling water. The water is returned to the boil. Cold water is poured in to stop the boil. Then they are brought to the boil again, drained and rinsed in cold water. The cold water rinse separates the noodles and stops the cooking. A few soaked dried shrimps are placed on top of the noodles. Half a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of Chinese rice wine, 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, a teaspoon of Chinese sesame oil, and 1½ tablespoons of finely chopped spring onion are mixed with 450 mils or 16 ounces of hot clear chicken stock. A very simple but satisfying dish, popular in many Chinese homes. An interesting noodle recipe is dragon eye cakes. Noodles are pulled, then laid out flat. The upper surface is brushed thickly with Chinese sesame oil. The edges are loosely rolled inwards with the pastry brush and oil. "375 grams or 13 ounces of fresh noodles will make 15 cakes. The noodles are pulled to 4 times their original length. They must be pulled out with equal force at each end. Using one end of the pulled noodle, she coils it to form 2 complete rings for the base of the cake. She continues to coil the pulled noodles up on the inner edge of the base to form the side of the cake. Then the excess is drawn down the side and securely tucked underneath. It's a neat trick. A large, flat, heavy-based skillet is heated over a low to medium heat. The surface is evenly brushed with Chinese sesame oil. The cakes are placed base down on the skillet. They are turned to cook an even golden brown. Once the cakes are cool enough to handle, they are reshaped by easing the sides up, so the center cavity is enlarged, and the noodles are separated a little. When completely cooled, the centers are filled with strawberry jam. And topped with sugar. Braised carp with black bean and garlic sauce is a simple to prepare but very effective dish. A cleaned and scaled carp is cooked 2 minutes each side in 3 tablespoons of shimmering peanut oil. 4 tablespoons of rinsed black beans and 4 large garlic cloves are pounded into a coarse paste. Two teaspoons of peanut oil is drizzled in. The black bean and garlic paste is added. 7 tablespoons of water, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of sugar, and a tablespoon of soy sauce are contributed. Then the lid is placed on. The fish is cooked a further 3 to 4 minutes over a medium heat. Blanched spring onion strips are added to the wok. They give color to the dish. MSG is used to season, but of course is optional. A mixture of 6 tablespoons of water, a pinch of salt, a teaspoon of sugar, a tablespoon of soy sauce, and a teaspoon of tapioca flour is stirred in. Collected juices are added, and the ingredients are brought to the boil, creating a glazing sauce for the fish. A very simple, richly aromatic dish.
Somebody?
Sure.
A Bob and Alice production.
Worldwide Pants.
מיד נשדר פרק בסדרת התעודה אוכל אמיתי בסין. שני בתל-עד, 8:45 החמישייה הקאמרית. ב-9:20 סרט הקולנוע הישראלי אבול בנat. ב-11:10 הסרט וילוז'ני בהופעה חיה, ומיד לאחר חדשות הלילה תיקים באפלה. צפייה נעימה.
לשבתאי אלפנדרי יש הכל. אישה, בית, כסף ו9 בנות. אבל רק על דבר אחד הוא חולם.
אל תקבל יותר מדי,
זה מוכרח להיות בן.
שייקה אופיר, זעריר החריפאי, וגם נעמי בלומנטל בסרט אבו אל בנat, יום שני, 9:25, סינמה 2, תל-עד.
Every mealtime in China, 1 billion sit down to eat. What they eat is determined by their ethnic background, the food available in their province, and by a tradition of cuisine that stretches back further than any other on this planet. Please join us for the real food of China. One of the oldest and most famous cities in China, Yangzhou, has one of the oldest and most famous tea houses, the Rich Spring Restaurant. It is open from 6 a.m. and serves thousands of steam buns, cakes, and pots of tea in a day. The restaurant is situated in the oldest part of the city. These narrow streets date back to the 16th century. Chefs are employed. They not only cook for the restaurant, but also to supply dozens of street vendors who sell from trays on their bicycles. There are over 100 types of buns and cakes prepared. 1,000 kilograms, or just under a ton of flour, is used every day. Buns are made from dough made to a recipe that is said to be over 1,000 years old and is famous for its lightness. Flour and water dough is combined with fermented dough that comes from a vat that is replenished but never replaced. The ingredients are similar to those used in most fermented doughs: yeast, sugar, strong white flour, and water. The proportions and temperatures used for these ingredients is a formula the chefs jealously guard. The two-dough mix is enriched with melted lard and sugar. Fillings include red bean paste, seasonal vegetables, chicken, bamboo shoot, pork, and sea cucumber. All work is done by hand. Each chef specializes in a particular type of bun or cake. This man has worked 30 years perfecting buns. He and several of the senior chefs are famous throughout China, and some have traveled giving demonstrations in all the main centers and abroad. We are the only film crew that has been allowed into the kitchens. The day we filmed, the temperature exceeded 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit. It did not slow down the activity. Deft hands turned out thick, hearty buns, sweet cakes, and the most delicate of dough animals, fruits, and flowers. tea served at the tea house is locally produced and considered to be of very high quality. All the picking is done by hand. Only the tips of the leaves are picked. The earliest record of tea cultivation was in the 4th century. It was, however, in the Ming Dynasty, 1368 to 1644, that the method of making tea as we know it became common practice. 18th century Emperor Shanlung demanded not only the best leaf, but the best water. When touring his domain, he graded wells according to the tea-making qualities of their waters. He weighed samples from each well and concluded the lightest was the best for tea brewing. The tea leaves are withered in a drying drum, then trimmed. A machine rolls the leaves. Rolling crushes the leaf cells and mixes their chemical components together. It gives the tea its flavor and astringency. The rolling also twists the leaves so that the rate at which they give up their essence is slowed down. The leaves are baked by dropping them through a hot oven. A final air drying is given. The tea is graded by sifting. The smaller leaves are considered the best quality. The best quality teas go through one further stage. They are painstakingly searched by hand for any stalks or oversized leaves. While the Chinese do not have a tea ceremony to the extent the Japanese have, tea is a very important part of life's rituals. In welcoming guests, tea will always be offered to show the extent of welcome. Honored guests will be served only the best quality. After the break, we will see some of the most famous items from the tea house menu made. The first recipe is sesame seed cakes. 2 types of dough are used, one oil-based, one water-based. First, the oil-based dough. 50 grams or 2 ounces of lard is worked into 75 grams or 3 ounces of strong white flour until it comes together in a ball. water dough is created from 125 grams or 4.5 ounces of strong white flour and 6 tablespoons of warm water kneaded together. The oil dough is enveloped with the water dough. It is sealed by pinching the water dough edges together. The dough is rolled out into a rectangle until about 4 millimeters or 3/16 of an inch thick. It's folded, turned so the sides become the top and bottom, then rolled again. Then turned so the bottom becomes the top and rolled once more. The dough is rolled into a sausage. The edge is wet with a little water and the sausage is sealed. Rolling with the hand ensures the layers adhere to each other. 8 equal portions are broken off. Each dough segment is filled with a mix made from a teaspoon of lard with 25 grams or 1 ounce of finely chopped preserved peaches and 50 grams or 2 ounces of white sugar. The tops are lightly brushed with a little beaten egg. Then dipped in sesame seeds. Cakes are cooked in oil, heated to a shimmer until a light gold. It takes about 3 minutes. The next dish, 1,000-layer cake, uses fermented dough mixed with 200 mils or 7 ounces of warm water. Gradually worked together with 300 grams or 11 ounces of strong white flour. It is a very sticky mix initially, but vigorous kneading produces a smooth and pliable dough. The dough is rolled out into a long, narrow rectangle, 4 millimeters or 3/16 of an inch thick. The surface is smeared with 2 tablespoons of Chinese sesame oil. 100 grams or 4 ounces of white sugar is spread over the oil. "75 grams or 3 ounces of lard mixed with 100 grams or 4 ounces of white sugar is sprinkled over the sugar. The dough is folded into a parcel that is turned 45 degrees and rolled out. A new parcel is folded to be the final shape of the 1,000-layer cake. The ribbing with the rolling pin seals the layers. The cake is decorated with 2 tablespoons of finely shredded preserved melon, then dispatched to the steamer. The restaurant calls the next dish pork and spring onion pie. It is a little different from the pies you are probably used to. 100 grams or 4 ounces of lean pork and 3 small spring onions are finely chopped. A skin is made from an egg, flour and water. About a tablespoon of the water is whisked with the egg until well combined. "75 grams or 3 ounces of plain white flour is mixed in. Water is added gradually until a smooth, thick batter is formed. The egg mix is swirled around a well-seasoned hot wok until an even skin forms. The wok is briefly placed over a medium heat, and the skin is cooked until translucent and able to be freely lifted without tearing. A teaspoon each of white sugar and Chinese sesame oil is mixed with the pork and spring onion to form the filling. A little reserved egg skin batter is used to seal the pie. The pie is deep fried in oil, heated to a shimmer. 2 to 3 minutes until cooked a crisp golden brown. Three treasure bananas next. The 3 treasures are bamboo shoot, chicken, and pork, and not a banana comes near them. The name refers to the shape. 50 grams, 2 ounces of steamed potato is mashed to a puree. The potato is encased in a dough made from 75 grams or 3 ounces of wheat starch, mixed with 2 tablespoons of boiling water and lightly kneaded until smooth. The surface of the bench is lightly oiled to prevent sticking. He seasons the dough with a pinch each of salt, sugar, white pepper, and MSG. He kneads until the dough is smooth, pliable, and no longer sticky. The dough is rolled out into a rectangle, 4 millimeters or 3/16 of an inch thick. Then the rolled out dough is trimmed and divided. He places on a filling of 1½ tablespoons each of finely chopped pork, chicken, and bamboo shoot, mixed with ½ a teaspoon each of minced spring onion and fresh ginger, seasoned with a teaspoon of soy sauce and ½ a teaspoon of sugar. It's rolled up and sealed with a little water. A stem of a strip of Chinese ham is inserted and sealed. roll is given a gentle bend to take on a banana shape. The flower end of the banana is sealed, and a small hollow is made to hold a ball of red bean paste. It's dipped in beaten egg and rolled in breadcrumbs. An oil bath is heated until shimmering, and the bananas are deep fried 2 minutes until a light golden brown. First off the steamer is the 1,000-layer cake, just one of the very many cakes and buns of the Rich Spring restaurant. Every mealtime in China, 1 billion sit down to eat. What they eat is determined by their ethnic background, the food available in their province, and by a tradition that stretches back further than any other on this planet. Please join us for the real food of China. While their neighbors tend their crops, a family in this village near Yangchao leaves their farm work aside. This is a very special day for them. It's grandfather's 60th birthday and his first birthday party. Traditionally in this village, birthdays are not celebrated until the 60th year. The family's kitchen is very simple. The stove runs on twigs and straw. There are very few utensils used. There is no refrigerator, no gas or electric appliances. A special meal is prepared. The recipes are very simple, but produce a colorful spread. Grandson does the cooking, assisted by his mother. Although only a teenager, the grandson is an accomplished cook. One and a half kilos or 3 pounds 6 ounces of pork belly is cut into strips for the first dish, red cooked pork. The pork is rinsed clean in water. Four to 5 tablespoons of peanut oil is heated to a shimmer. then flavored with a bruised knob of fresh ginger. When the aroma is released, the pork is added. It's tossed until it turns evenly white. "100 milliliters or 3½ ounces of soy sauce is added. And a couple of teaspoons of Chinese rice wine. It's a very potent wine with a sharp taste. As soon as the wine hits the heat, the alcohol evaporates, which is probably just as well. Some of the Chinese wines contain triple the alcohol content of European wines. A teaspoon of white sugar together with a pinch of salt completes the seasoning. The heat is reduced until the cooking liquid is just simmering. It's covered a couple of minutes, then checked for color. He decides to add another 60 mils or 2 ounces of soy sauce. It is the sauce that provides the color this dish is named after. The aim is to give the pork a shiny red glazed coating. While it cooks, a slivered bean curd salad is prepared. Although the grandson is a teenager, he has already had several years of practice with a cleaver, the main cutting instrument he uses for cooking. It makes it look simple. It's not. It takes real skill to cut this evenly and retain all your fingers. He uses about 675 grams or 1½ pounds of pressed bean curd, turning it into fine slivers. The curd is sprinkled with salt. The local salt is not as refined as Western salt. Although he uses more, you will probably find ½ a teaspoon sufficient. Hot water cleans and sets the shape of the curd. The water is drained away and fresh hot water added, plus more salt. While it soaks, stir-fried fish with chili peppers is prepared. The fish being used here is a carp, fresh from the village pond. It's unlikely that you'll have similar access to fresh carp. You can still enjoy the dish. Substitute firm white fillets from a full-bodied fish. Use 450 grams, or 1 pound. The fish will have to wait a moment. The pork has been simmering for 10 minutes and now needs the addition of water, enough to reach 2/3 up the side of the pork. It's covered to simmer for an hour. The fish is finely sliced. Then mixed with half a teaspoon of Chinese rice wine. The white of a very fresh egg is added. The egg really could not be any fresher. It was laid by one of the chickens wandering around the kitchen while the fish was prepared. "50 grams or 2 ounces of bamboo shoot is sliced. And 4 green chili peppers. To the Western eye, these look like mild green bell peppers. They are not. They're fiery, similar in taste and power to the more familiar elongated chili. The ingredients will have to be put aside for a moment. The pork is ready. A half a tablespoon of sugar takes the edge off the bite of the soy sauce. The bean curd has soaked enough. A teaspoon of MSG, or as the Chinese call it, gourmet powder, is combined with 4 tablespoons of soy sauce. You may prefer to leave the gourmet powder out. Also added is a tablespoon of white rice vinegar. He puts ginger shreds on the curd to lift the taste. He then adds a tablespoon of dried shrimps, softened in hot water. The soy sauce mix is poured over. The final ingredient, a tablespoon of Chinese sesame oil, is poured over. Only one burner and one wok, so cooking has to be well planned and well timed. The fish slices are very briefly cooked in 500 mils or 18 fluid ounces of vegetable oil, heated to just shimmering. Four tablespoons of oil is reheated to a shimmer, and the bamboo shoot and peppers, along with a tablespoon of soaked cloud ear, are stir-fried. Cloud ear is a fungi available dried from Asian food stores. A half a teaspoon of salt goes in. A tablespoon of water. A teaspoon of sugar. And a couple of teaspoons of Chinese rice wine. The cooking is very swift, just 1 minute. Any longer, and the vegetables will lose color and become too soft. To complete the dish, The fish is returned to the wok and tossed with the vegetables. Chickens are a very important source of fresh meat to the villagers. There are no fences on the farms, so young chicks are colored with vegetable dye patterns, unique to each family for ready identification and to save rustling disputes. When the chickens grow out of their colors, they are brought close to the kitchen to provide fresh meat in a village where most homes lack refrigeration. So it is quite common to see chickens wandering around a country kitchen while fellows of their breed are being prepared for dinner. This dish, like the pork, is also red cooked chicken. He uses 2.5 kilograms or 2 3/4 pounds of chickens chopped into pieces. The chicken is blanched 1 minute in simmering water. Three tablespoons of vegetable oil, heated until shimmering, is flavored with a bruised knob of ginger. The chicken is coated with the oil, then 200 milliliters or 7 ounces of soy sauce is added in stages, plus 2 teaspoons of Chinese rice wine. And a couple of teaspoons of white granulated sugar. Enough water to almost cover the chicken is poured in. Then the concoction is left to gently simmer 15 to 20 minutes until almost tender. $450 grams or 1 pound of shelled beans is added. The cook decides to add another ½ tablespoon of sugar. It's left to simmer a further 10 minutes, no longer, or the beans will disintegrate. The next dish also uses beans, but of a different type. These long beans are very common in China. They grow on bamboo racks, producing an excellent yield without taking up much ground space. It is possible to get them in some western cities. If not, substitute with string beans. He cuts 750 grams, or 1 pound 10 ounces. Four tablespoons of vegetable oil is swirled around a very hot wok. Then the beans are tossed in. Don't panic. The Chinese use very high temperatures in their cooking. Heat your oil until a light haze rises, no more. It'll be less spectacular, but much safer. Once the beans are coated with the oil, 4 tablespoons of water is poured in. He also adds a tablespoon of soaked dried shrimps. And a ½ teaspoon of salt. The next dish is very simple. Salted shrimps. 600 mils or 20 fluid ounces of water is seasoned with a piece of bruised fresh ginger, 2 aniseed starch, a teaspoon of salt, and the same of sugar. $450 grams or 1 pound of green shrimps are added. The shrimps have been cleaned and the legs snipped off with a pair of sharp scissors. It's one operation the cook does not use his cleaver for. The shrimps should be cooked until they turn red, about 2 to 3 minutes. Any longer, and the flesh will become tough. A teaspoon of Chinese rice wine to sharpen the taste. A few stirs of the shrimps, and the dish is done. Chinese spinach is one of the main crops of the village. This dish uses 1 kilogram, or 2 pounds 3 ounces, of young leaves. It's stir-fried in 5 tablespoons of vegetable oil, heated until it shimmers. A teaspoon of salt is added to taste. $25 grams or 1 ounce of finely shredded fresh ginger is contributed. MSG is added, but is of course optional. Tomatoes are skinned by first cutting across at the flower end of each tomato, then covering them for about 6 seconds in boiling water. They're drained, then doused in cold water. With a little care, the skin can be then peeled away cleanly. The cores are removed and the tomatoes are sliced. The tomatoes are sprinkled with sugar. And that's it. Grandfather's celebration dinner is ready for the table. At 60, a man has experienced all 12 terrestrial branches of Chinese astrology. The years from the rat through to the pig. A new cycle is beginning. An event worth celebrating. Every mealtime in China, 1 billion sit down to eat. What they eat is determined by their ethnic background, the food available in their province, and by a tradition of cuisine that stretches back further than any other on this planet. Please join us for the real food of China. Mr. and Mrs. Wong visit the market every day. They determine what they will eat that day by seeking out the best, freshest produce on offer. They make their selection on both taste and traditional nutritional values. In 1830, the imperial dietitian wrote, "If the body is at ease and in harmony with its environment, the mind will be able to deal with all changes in life. Thus, it is important to keep the body in good repair and maintenance, the essence of which is to keep the golden mean, that is, not to be deficient in nutrition and not to indulge in excess." The Wongs practice such a philosophy. It has given them the strength to survive through the many upheavals and changes that have happened in a lifetime. This market is in a small town in Sichuan province, a province famous for its spicy hot dishes. As well as selecting produce for the day's menu, the Wongs select ingredients for pickling, including these pungent chilies. The first dish their produce from the market yields is an egg and tomato soup. 2 large firm tomatoes are skinned by first cutting a cross at the flower end of each tomato, then covering them for about 6 seconds in boiling water. They are drained, then doused in cold water. With a little care, the skin can be then peeled away cleanly. The cores are removed and the tomatoes are sliced. Two eggs are whisked with half a teaspoon of salt until well combined. A knob of fresh ginger is peeled, crushed, and added to 1.2 liters or 2 imperial pints or 2 2/3 US pints of just simmering water. The egg is added to the water in a circular motion. Done correctly, the egg will draw out into threads. You can help the process on a little by stirring very gently while pouring in the egg. A teaspoon of lard is dropped in. And then the tomatoes are added. Apart from possibly a pinch of salt, that is all the ingredients. It's the simplest of dishes, but one with an excellent purity of taste. It only simmers for 2 minutes. just until the tomatoes are just cooked. Mr. Wong never allows the soup to boil. Peppers are a relatively recent addition to the cuisine of China. The pepper is native to South America. In 1492, Columbus introduced it to Europe. From there, it spread eastward to India, then on to China. No province of China has taken to the pepper as enthusiastically as Sichuan. Sichuan people believe that the hot pepper protects them against the dampness of their climate, and that at high summer temperatures, it causes the blood to rush to the skin surface, where it will cool. This dish uses 675 grams, or 1½ pounds of cleaned, trimmed, de-seeded red bell peppers by strips. The peppers are dry fried in a very hot wok. A little salt is sprinkled in. You can test if the wok is hot enough by releasing a drop of water onto the surface. If the water drop explodes on contact, the wok is ready. In 30 seconds, the aroma of the peppers begins to release. The peppers are removed from the wok. Three tablespoons of vegetable oils are heated until smoking, and the peppers are returned to the wok. ½ teaspoon of salt is added, and 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. A very full, richly aromatic and colorful dish. Most Chinese consume 450 grams or 1 pound of rice a day. That is 45 million kilos or 775,000 tons consumed in China every day. 225 grams or 8 ounces of short-grained rice are rinsed under cold water. Rubbing the grains together helps remove the excess starch. The process is repeated until the water drains almost clear. Rice cleaned this way cooks light and fresh. Mr. Wong steams his rice. A trivet is placed into a saucepan and 1/4 pot of boiling water added. A bowl of rice is placed on the trivet and boiling water poured into the bowl to cover the rice by 1.5 centimeters or ½ inch. A tight-fitting lid seals the saucepan, and the rice is left to steadily steam for 40 minutes. The result is perfect, plump, tender rice. Pickle making is an art handed down from generation to generation. It is practiced in its most simple form by Mr. Wong. He uses a traditional pickle jar, but you can prepare them at home using a sterilized Western pickling jar. Into 2 liters, or 3 1/3 imperial pints, and 4½ US pints of water, he adds 5 tablespoons of sea salt. He puts into the brine 300 grams or 11 ounces of cleaned, trimmed long beans. The same quantity of cleaned, trimmed red radish. And 100 grams or 4 ounces of cleaned and trimmed red chilies. A tablespoon of Chinese peppercorns. Add seasoning. The jar is made airtight and stored in a dark, cool place for 2 weeks before the pickles are used. To test if the pickles are ready, taste and smell the brine. If it is sour and smells clean fresh, they are ready. After the break, we see the making of pickles on a much grander scale. Pickling was originally valued for its ability to preserve food. The original sauerkraut, before the technique was refined in Germany, was simply cabbage covered with wine and was a staple of soldiers patrolling the Great War. The Three-Union Pickled Vegetable Factory has been producing pickles for over 200 years. Vegetables are placed in a brine solution strong enough to prevent the growth of undesirable bacteria, but weak enough to allow the growth of desirable ones. The process at this factory is secret, and we were only allowed to film an overview. They are weighing a vegetable which is named after its shape, the screw. It has a taste when pickled that is similar to gherkin. The factory pickles many different types of vegetables and has a collection of awards for its products. Some of the recipes used date back centuries and are very closely guarded secrets. Although most pickle production is now done in factories, there is still some pickle making done as a cottage industry. The recipes are the same or similar to those used in the factories, but the process takes longer and is often more prized by the Chinese as providing a pickle with a purer taste and brighter color. Another ancient process that still features in contemporary Chinese cooking is smoking. Very early every morning in a small smokehouse in Chengdu, Sichuan province, several hundred ducks smoke in the traditional manner. The smoke is produced from dry straw. It takes 3/4 of an hour to penetrate the ducks. Left 24 hours to absorb the smoke flavor. Next day, they are simmered in an exotic brew of hot sugar, lilac buds, cassia bark, aniseed and water for half an hour. The brew not only completes the flavoring of the duck, it also completes the cooking. Smoking only cooks the bird. Smoked duck is a favorite cold dish. At the traditional restaurant Chengdu, serve it with ginger. The most famous dishes of the restaurant, however, are the hot ones. The steamed eggplant with 2 chili sauces is a favorite of the patrons. 675 grams, or 1.5 pounds of eggplant, is cut into pieces about 10 centimeters or 4 inches long. Then steamed for 15 minutes. While steamed, 7 large green chilies are roasted until their skins are blistered and crisp. The restaurant uses a charcoal fire. You can use your grill and achieve just as good a result. The chilies are chopped until minced. The minced chilies are mixed with a teaspoon of white sugar, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, and 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper, which completes sauce 1. The chef serves the sauce in 2 dishes, 1 for each end of the table. The second sauce is chili oil based, 4 tablespoons of it. Mixed in is a teaspoon of sugar and 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. It's a dish that is worth plucking up courage for. The eggplant has a neutral taste that is ignited to become an exotic one with the sauces. You can, of course, just dab a little of each sauce on the eggplant. Natives of Szechuan, however, are likely to smother each mouthful with the sauces. Our next dish is spicy rabbit. 2 rabbit fillets are used. Each fillet is cut into 3, then thinly sliced. Three red bell peppers and 2 green bell peppers are de-seeded and cut into strips. Slices of garlic are trimmed into flowers. Two egg whites are extracted, then whisked until they soft peak. Two tablespoons of corn flour are mixed in. The slices are seasoned with red vinegar and a pinch of MSG. If you are sensitive to MSG, leaving it out will not spoil the dish. The slices are well coated with the batter. Then fried in enough vegetable oil to 1/3 wok and heated until just shimmering. They are cooked until the batter is crisp and the meat is turning white, which only takes about 30 seconds. Then they are drained and put aside while the peppers are cooked. These also get 30 seconds in oil. For the sauce, half a teaspoon of salt, the same of white pepper, quarter of a teaspoon of MSG, and a tablespoon of thin corn flour paste are mixed. He works very quickly with a very hot wok. The garlic flavors 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil. The rabbit slices and peppers are tipped in. 150 mils or 5 ounces of clear chicken stock is added to the sauce, and the sauce is added to the wok. The dish is tossed and turned until the sauce is thickened. 120 mils or 4 ounces of chili oil and 2 teaspoons of spiced vinegar. And another Irish ready. But are you ready for the power of a Szechuan hot dish? Of course, you could modify the chili to achieve the level of fire you enjoy. Every mealtime in China, 1 billion sit down to eat. What they eat is determined by their ethnic background, the food available in their province, and by a tradition of cuisine that stretches back further than any other on this planet. Please join us for the real food of China. Chinese professional cooking used to be only learned by apprenticeship. It is now possible for chefs to be trained in colleges. In Yangzhou, perhaps the most prestigious college of culinary skills is operated. Here, some of the finest chefs in China train students for 3 or more years. We spent several days with the school to fill banquet dishes being prepared by professors and students that display the art of fine Chinese cuisine. The first stage for the first dish is the making of a clear chicken stock. The chicken is cut and beaten to release the juices and bone marrow. It's added to 3 liters or 5 imperial pints or 6.5 US pints of water and simmered 10 minutes, skimmed. Spring onions are added together with a bruised knob of ginger. The stock is then simmered 4 hours, allowed to settle, then strained through cloth. The first dish is called orange segment fish soup. There is no orange in it, but you will come to see why it is so named. 450 grams or 1 pound of firm fish fillets are scraped of their flesh. On a corn-floured surface, the fish is pounded to a fine mash. A good rhythmic technique with 2 cleavers is considered a mark of a master chef. You will notice the difference in skills when the teacher hands over the task to the student. A large knob of ginger is peeled, sliced, and bruised. And 4 spring onions are cut. These, together with a 1/4 teaspoon of red vinegar and a pinch of MSG, are used to infuse 4 tablespoons of cold water. .25 grams or 1 ounce of bamboo shoot is finely sliced. 3 large soaked Chinese mushrooms are trimmed and cut. Ten young Chinese cabbage leaves will also be used. Water is added to the fish mash by dipping the cleaver blades. $60 mils or 2 ounces of egg white is extracted. The fish mash is worked with a 1/2 teaspoon of salt and a tablespoon of water. The egg whites and the infused water are gradually added until completely incorporated into the mixture. Water is added throughout the process until a total of 120 ml or 4 ounces is used. A tablespoon and a half of melted lard is mixed in. When the mixture is thrown against the side of the bowl and does not splatter, it is ready for shaping. Using a wet hand to prevent the mistake, the teacher takes a handful and gradually closes his fist, working up from the little finger. The mixture is forced up and out through the small gap. He brushes his thumb across the index finger to produce an orange segment shape, which is scooped up by the spoon. The segments are placed into poaching water just below simmering point. To produce a second color of segment, 2 egg yolks are blended into 1/3 of the mixture. The segments are poached until firm. Then drained and rinsed and stored in cold water while the soup is prepared. 1.5 litres or 2.5 imperial or 3 1/3 US pints of the clear chicken stock is heated to just below simmering point. The segments are slipped into the stock. A teaspoon of Chinese sesame oil is added, plus the cabbage, mushrooms, and bamboo shoots. Cooking continues another couple of minutes, then the soup is ladled into a tureen. A sprinkle of 5 spice powder, and the dish is ready to serve. Chinese banquet food is always accompanied by wines and spirits. On the coast of the Bonai Sea, ideal grape growing conditions exist, and a winery very famous within China prospers. The Changyu Pioneer Wine Company. In the heart of the season, 20,000 bottles of wine a day are produced. There is archaeological evidence that China was distilling alcoholic beverages and making wine as early as the 3rd millennium BC. The winery was set up in 1892 by Chang Bishi, a wealthy Chinese, with the help of the Austrian attaché who was stationed at a nearby garrison. 120 varieties of vines were imported from Europe. Now Riesling, Traminer, Cabernet, and Merlot are the most predominant in 4,000 hectares of vineyards. The wine is matured in a vast cellar, in the original oak casks, brought to China from Austria. The wines are very sweet, too sweet for most Western tastes, but sweet is just the way the Chinese like it. Soy sauce is the oldest manufactured condiment known to man. Soybeans are boiled in massive pressure cookers. They're then fermented in dark chambers for up to 6 months. Spices may be added. There are a number of formulae, all secret and jealously guarded. The sauces are classified into light and dark. Dark is fermented longer and is saltier than light. Don't be misled by the names. There is little difference in color between dark and light. The shading refers to the depth of taste. The final stage is pressing in large vats until the sauce is drained off. This plant turns out enough sauce to satisfy all of Great Britain's demand, and only a fraction of China's. The chefs prepare crispy duck, a traditional recipe of Shandong province. The dish has similarities to the famous Peking duck. For a marinade, 100 grams of fresh ginger sliced, and 10 large spring onions with the greens left on are cut. tablespoon of Chinese peppercorns, and 2 tablespoons of aniseed, plus 6 tablespoons of salt, are mixed with the spring onion and ginger. A 2 kilogram or 4.5 pound duck is cleaned and dried. The feet and pinions are removed. The duck is spread out and hit with the back cleaver along the bones of the legs and wings. The breastplate is put down on until it snaps. This assists in the absorption of the marinade. The marinade is vigorously rubbed into the duck's skin. The duck is left to absorb the marinade flavors for 2 hours. Then steamed 2.5 hours until very tender, but still firm. After steaming, the duck is allowed to air dry for 3 hours. Small buns are made by patting fermented dough into circles, brushing with Chinese sesame oil, folding, shaping, and sealing to form the shape of lotus leaves. The buns are steamed 10 minutes. The ginger, spring onion, peppercorns, and aniseed that remain are removed. He takes care not to damage the skin. The duck is plunged into 2,500 mils or 4 imperial pints or 5 US pints of vegetable oil, heated until smoking. After 4 minutes of basting, the skin of the duck is crisp, succulent, and dark golden brown, and the flesh is warm through. Excess oil is removed with a towel. Guests pick off slivers of the meat and skin, place them inside the bun, and season them with roasted salt and pepper. The next dish is called twice-cooked banana cakes. Eggs are used. A cluster of chopsticks is used to whisk. A mix of 300 grams or 11 ounces of wheat starch and 100 grams or 4 ounces of potato flour is gradually combined with the eggs until a smooth batter forms. A half a teaspoon of banana essence is contributed, then whisked in. 1.3 litres or 2 1/3 imperial or 2 7/8 US pints of water is heated over a medium flame. A plate is smeared with Chinese sesame oil. Before the water has had a chance to cool, the batter is poured in. Constant stirring is required. Once the mixture begins to thicken, the heat is reduced and the pace of the stirring quickened. Once the batter is completely cooled, it is sprinkled with flour, cut and each piece well coated in wheat starch. The assistant decorates a plate with preserved cherries and mandarin slices. To deep fry, vegetable oil is heated until every mealtime in China, 1 billion sit down to eat. What they eat is determined by their ethnic background, the food available in their province, and by a tradition of cuisine that stretches back further than any other on this planet. Please join us for the real food of China. It is said that in Canton, anything will grow in half the time it will grow anywhere else. The climate is humid and rainfall high. The variety of crops produced is vast. The farmland supplies what is one of the world's great markets. In a network of narrow streets, Canton's main market sells fruit and vegetables, snakes and cats, salamanders and deer's penis, dried centipedes, moles and mosses. The list is seemingly endless. The Cantonese consider the most unlikely ingredients to be delicacies. In times past, they simply could not afford to be finicky about what they ate. They developed a philosophy of all that is required to turn an unlikely ingredient into a cherished delicacy is the proper seasoning and cooking. Without such a philosophy, and with such a high population, they would have starved. The Cantonese boast they will eat any animal that walks, flies, or swims. When elephants were abundant, they feasted on barbecued trunk, the flavor of which was compared to pork. The great python is still popular, finely sliced and dipped in vinegar. In this episode, we experience Canton cooking in the home, in the streets, and in a most unusual restaurant. First, we visit a kitchen that is supremely simple and about the size of a bathtub. Mrs. Wu is cooking straw mushrooms with vegetable greens. 500 grams, or 1 pound 2 ounces of straw mushrooms are blanched, 30 seconds in hot water. They are so named because of the medium in which they are grown. If unavailable fresh, you will be able to obtain them canned from Asian stores. The mushrooms are drained and briefly rinsed under cold water. Vegetable greens, Mrs. Wu uses shepherd's purse, are blanched until they just begin to soften and have turned an even bright green. A teaspoon of tapioca flour. A teaspoon of MSG. Two teaspoons of soy sauce. And 5 tablespoons of cold water are combined. The greens are drained and rinsed, and the wok is cleaned and heated. Two tablespoons of peanut oil is poured in. A teaspoon of salt. And the greens are returned. A few ginger slices are cut. The wok is sizzling with a couple of tablespoons of peanut oil and a crushed garlic clove. A teaspoon of white sugar is added. The greens are drained. A little MSG. And then the tapioca flour and soy sauce mix is added and stirred in until the mushrooms are glazed. A half a teaspoon of Chinese sesame oil rounds the flavor. The dish is dressed with fresh coriander. It is a dish as simple as the kitchen in which it is prepared. The next dish Mrs. Wu prepares is stir-fried pork with Chinese okra. 225 grams, or 8 ounces of lean pork, is cut across the grain into slices. A large onion is prepared. .375 grams, or 13 ounces of Chinese okra is sliced. Because of the texture in the center of this vegetable, it is also known as silk squash or silk melon. And to confuse even more, because of the ridging of the skin, it can be known as pleated okra. The okra is added to 2 tablespoons of peanut oil heated to a shimmer and flavored with a couple of bruised garlic cloves. A sprinkle of salt and a couple of tablespoons of water are added. The lid goes on, and the gourd is allowed to cook until it has brightened in color and is beginning to soften. A teaspoon of tapioca flour and a tablespoon of soy sauce are worked together with the pork. Four large red chilies are de-seeded and sliced. Two tablespoons of peanut oil is heated to a shimmer. The onion and the chilies are tossed until well coated with the oil. A pinch of salt is added, and 2 tablespoons of water. They are covered and cooked until the onions begin to turn translucent. A clove of garlic flavors a couple of tablespoons of peanut oil heated to a shimmer. When the aroma of the garlic can be smelt, the pork is added. The pork is constantly tossed and turned to prevent the slices sticking. The basic method of cooking in China is to fry foods in oil, either vegetable or animal. By using oil, it is possible to bring food to a very high temperature very quickly, both cooking and sterilizing it. When the pork is almost white, the lid is returned for 20 seconds. A teaspoon of soy sauce, a teaspoon of tapioca flour, and 3 tablespoons of water are mixed together, then stirred into the pork to create a sauce. Mrs. Wu likes to add a half a teaspoon of MSG. You may prefer not to. The cooking continues until the pork is tender and the vegetables soft but crisp and shiny bright. Canton is proud of a most unusual restaurant. The house speciality is snake. The food markets are closed at night in Canton, but clothing free markets set up in the streets after dark. On a hot summer's night, they're crowded. And where there are crowds, there are street vendors selling Chinese snacks and quick meals. The most unusual restaurant in China, and surely one of the most unusual in the world, is in Canton. It specializes in wild foods, particularly snake. We were very privileged to film in the restaurant. The managers are conscious of the Western reaction to snakes and resent being objects of curiosity. They have a great deal of pride in their establishment and see themselves as providers of fine cuisine that benefits the health of their patrons. Many Chinese believe that snake is a rejuvenator. They also believe the more poisonous the snake, the more potent the effect. To meet the demands of their customers, the restaurant stocks a wide variety of snakes, many deadly. Before the snake is dispatched, the bile is removed. It is mixed with alcohol and drunk, but we will return to that later. The snakes are killed moments before cooking. The patrons often select the particular snake they wish to eat. One of these is destined to be an ingredient in a dish named 5-season snake. Snake, pork and turtle meat is blanched in boiling water. Oil is flavored with ginger and spring onion. The meat is cooked until well coated in the oil and lightly seared. This is not the completed dish. There is another stage we shall return to, in the restaurant's steam room. However, while we are at the wok, we can see a snake dish cooked that is a favorite of the patrons, battered snake fillets. A thick batter, made using whole eggs, corn flour and salt, gives the snake a bright yellow coating. The snake fillets are cooked over a medium heat in a seasoned wok until the batter sets. Peanut oil is drizzled in so that by the time it reaches the base of the wok, it is hot. Oil is progressively added as the fillets cook. While the cooking continues, we can catch up with the progress of the 5-seasoned snake. The meat is placed in a soup tureen. The ginger and spring onion is removed. Ginseng and dried dragon eye fruit are added. Dragon eye is a very delicate fruit. Ginseng is believed to be the root of life. The tureen is topped up with clear chicken stock, then steamed 4 hours. The thought of eating snake may make you shudder. Wouldn't you be tempted, however, if you believed, as many Chinese do, that by eating this dish, you could slow the effects of aging? A very clear soup is produced, with the meat extremely tender and retaining its flavor. Snake meat has been described as being a little like chicken, a little like fish. It really has a fine taste of its own. It's only the thought that is unpleasant. For serving, the battered snake fillets are trimmed and neatly arranged. Although snake meat can be a very acceptable taste, snake bile in alcohol is a taste few Western palates can enjoy. The drinking of the bile is a ritual that has prestige for the host. It is very popular in the autumn to prepare the body against the coming winter. The alcohol the bile is mixed with is well over the proof of Western spirits. A toast of the cocktail is considered a perfect beginning to a banquet of snake and wild meat. We were surprised to learn that many Westerners seek out the restaurant to experience the wild food. The restaurant has a guest book full of Western names that offer comments of praise for the dishes. This banquet featured snake and cat, wildcat, turtle, and game birds.
For the egg batter, just take 1 egg and get that lightly beaten, and then you want to take 2 cups of ice cold water and pour that in, and then after you've got that in the bowl, just mix it up, and then you're going to add your flour, and we're using 1 2/3 cup of flour and 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda, and we'll mix that in with after it's been sifted right into our water and egg mixture here. I'm using this fun little sifter that is battery operated, works a little bit more quickly and it's kind of fun to use. And then you want to make sure that the consistency, let me just turn down my eggplant here. You want to make sure that the consistency of the batter is a little bit on the thin side, because there's nothing worse than a big heavy egg batter on any of your vegetables. You don't want to mask your vegetables. You want the vegetable flavor to definitely come through when you're preparing this. So now that that's all mixed up, it should have the consistency almost of like a heavy cream, a good heavy thick cream. Make sure all your lumps are out, and then we'll go ahead and start dipping our vegetables into this. Now, when you dip in your vegetables, depending on what the vegetables are that you're actually using, of course, determines the length of time that they need to cook. And I'm going to use a pair of little wooden tongs here, and I'm going to start by dipping in my sweet potato, because the sweet potato takes about 2 minutes to actually cook. Good sound. Wonderful. Make sure they're well coated. Drop those in. I'm going to put another sweet potato in. And then the next vegetable that I'm going to use is cauliflower, because that takes about 2 minutes also. And so get this well coated into your batter. Whoops. And drop it in. Take another piece and drop this in. And then after I do the cauliflower, I'm going to put some broccoli in, because the broccoli takes about, 1.5 minutes. And along with the broccoli, I'm going to put in some wonderful skewered scallions that I've skewered with some toothpicks so that they hold together. But as you can see, I'm coating well all of the vegetables that I'm setting in here. So here go my scallions. Dip those into your batter. Drop them in. There's one more little bunch of scallions. And then the last thing that I'm going to drop in there are going to be some mushrooms. And these make for really wonderful tempura. Make sure that they get well coated. And after those are all well coated and into the into the oil, you want to make sure that you turn your vegetables. And at this point, you might want to turn your vegetables with something a little longer than that wooden skewer. And I use these metal tongs, but it's important if you use metal tongs to be careful, because you want to make sure with the oil so hot that it doesn't travel up and end up burning your fingers. So just go ahead and make sure that these are turned so that they cook on both sides and they don't overcook. And you want to make sure when when cooking with oil, that all of your vegetables are well cooked and well browned, but because the oil is good and hot, you won't have a problem. Okay, now those are cooking, and while those cook, let me just take a little peek in here at my eggplant and see how it's doing. Smells great. Looks good too. Let me just give that a turn and coat those sauces over that sauce over the top of the eggplant. Oh, looks just perfect. Now at this point you might want to adjust for a little bit more salt, but I think that we certainly put a generous helping enough of salt in there, so I think we're probably fine. And I'm going to pull my plate over here that we're going to be serving our vegetables on. And why don't I add first my bok choy that I've steamed up. Put that onto the plate. We'll put this over here on the side. Now ideally you would certainly want to serve your bok choy when it's a little bit hotter than this. That's the importance of serving any kind of stir-fry or Chinese vegetables. You want to make sure that these are hot. So there's my bok choy. And then I think that our tempura is just about ready to come out. So why don't I let these sit out here and drain on top of my little tempura rack. This way the fat will drain right back into the pan. There we go. And then pull my scallions out and get all my broccoli out here. Sometimes they hide under your little tempura rack, and it's then a little bit easier to grab them out with the tongs. And after while those sit out there and drain, we'll go ahead and serve up this wonderful eggplant that we've got. Whew. Make sure the sauce is good and thick. I'll turn off my flame. And we'll just put this on a little bit of this Napa cabbage leaf, which makes for a pretty garnish. Put that out. Nice, generous helping. And then we'll throw on a couple of pieces of tempura, which make for a beautiful little garnish. And I have a little side vegetable dish over there waiting at my table of some wonderful jicama in a nice light sesame oil, which makes for a wonderful, let me grab this one here, complement. Sweet potato and then a little broccoli. Ah, boy, what a good, nutritious, healthy-looking meal. And I think nothing goes better with this than a good Chinese beer, because we've got that hot Szechuan flavor. So we'll go ahead and open that up, and don't always be conventional. You don't always have to serve your beer in a beer glass. Once in a while, it's nice to serve it in a wine glass. So I hope you learned a little something about vegetables, about steaming and stir-frying, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Joe. It's a lovely evening.
Can I come in?
Oh, God, it's late.
It's, just for a little while.
I would like to have you come in, but I have a very early morning. I have to get up early. Okay, so I'll see you soon, okay?
All right. Maybe some other time.
Yeah. Okay, thanks again. Really. Bye. Still up?
Yeah, I got a test tomorrow. How was your date?
Fine.
Not so good, huh?
I didn't say that.
What was he like?
It's, I don't know.
Oh, come on.
Hate blind dates.
Yeah, he sounded like a creep.
You listened.
I couldn't help it.
I'm not doing it anymore. No, I mean, I would rather read a book than, waste my time like that.
Mom, don't worry. You'll find someone.
I'm not worried, sweetheart.
Well, I just think you should have someone. Like, you shouldn't be alone.
I'm not alone. I have you.
I don't mean me. You know what I mean.
Look, don't worry about my personal life, okay? I can take care of myself.
Yeah, I know. Want some cereal?
In the morning.
Okay.
Olympic-sized swimming pool at the rate of 5 gallons an hour, but there is a hole in the pool and is leaking at the rate of 2 gallons an hour, how long before the pool overflows?
Well, if it's acid rain, the acid might be eating at the side of the pool, in which case the pool will be getting wider, therefore bigger. Does it say what kind of rain it is? It doesn't say what kind of rain it is. How can I answer the question? How's your mom? Is she going out?
What?
Your mom, is she dating?
My mom? What's my mom got to do with me finishing her homework? And no, it doesn't say what kind of rain it is. Let's skip this one. You can explain it to Mrs. Thornbird. So what's bugging you?
My mom. She goes out with these guys, you know.
So what's wrong with that?
Nothing. You know anyone she likes.
Yeah, well, my mom brings these guys home sometimes, and she asks me what I think of them. I mean, what am I supposed to say?
Yeah, my dad does the same thing when I'm in L.A. What about all these singles bars? You think they work?
You just want to play around, sure. Never for anything serious. My mom never goes. Even my dad. He's just dragged there all the time by the divorced dentist friend of his. The dentist! Oh, I forgot. I gotta go. I'll see you later.
See ya.
See ya.
Jewish, Oriental, intellectual.
Excuse me.
Tall Albanian seeks same.
Excuse me.
Urban male neurotic.
You're on my bag?
Huh? Oh, sorry.
That's right.
Shrimp-eating vegetarian seeks equally irreverent female.
Excuse
Excuse me.
What? I already gone?
No, I know. I don't mean to interfere, but I noticed you're reading the Getting Personal columns. Yeah, well, I took one out. Triple Crown winner wanted.
Really?
Yeah, I got a lot of